women movement in both countries, Syria and Netherlands, and we are trying to do some kind of reflection. And it's really to open the dialogue because Syrian people, they reached Netherlands since 2014. I mean, the number is increasing since 2014. And it comes the idea like to open a space for people to meet, to ask the question, and to be in the same position. Not like because the Syrian, they are the newcomers, they are under the spot and people, they ask them, but also they have the right to ask as well. Who you are, what you are doing, what is this, what is that. So we will start this kind of discussion and dialogue with the women movement. And we have prepared some questions. We said, how was the beginning of the women movement in Netherlands, but also in Syria? So kind of backgrounds to the movement in both countries. And then what is the added value to have women in the public sphere? And then what did the women ask for and during the time of a change? What kind of priorities they have? What kind of demand they ask for? What are the challenges? Of course, there's a huge challenge not only in Syria right now because the conflict that Jock will tell us more about what kind of a challenge that the movement in Netherlands has faced, the women movement. And of course, how each movement succeeds, if there is successful of the movement, if there's achievement. Of course, we can talk now about the achievement of the women movement in Netherlands, and of course, we can raise some hope and positive acts and behavior of the women movement in Syria. My guests for tonight, two interesting experts. First, we have Ara Al-Germani. Of course, it's a long bio, and it's much more longer. I just make it shorter. But what's interesting about Ara, she's speaking Dutch very, very well. And she prefers to speak in Dutch, but since we are going to record, so we said it's English. And she's struggling somehow with the English, but I think she will do great. Ara has a great initiative in Leiden, near to Leiden in Sassenheim. And she has a center for empowering Syrian women refugees. She's inviting them to have a meeting, discussion, and to know their rights, for example, according to the Dutch law. And they have other kind of activity for like relaxing, to be confident, and to integrate to the Dutch culture. She is a scenarist. She is well known in this field because she has a very interesting drama series, Souk al-Waraq. It's the souk of the paper, this is the translation. And what we can tell about Ara, it's a lot. I believe it's a lot.
Thank you.
So it's here few of what has been done so far, but also we have Joop Nooranian from as a Dutch expert. Even she grew up in Brazil, but she spent more than another half of her lifetime to this moment in Netherlands. She is well known as a consultant. She had helped and a lot of women organizations in Netherlands. And I met her in 2014 during an event with the Frauen for Freedom. She is coming from the field of empowering and professionalizing organization in a sense how in building peace. She's recently working in the case of Sudan. She's working with the Sudani women. And last year she was in Darfur working a workshop with Sudani women. The last publication of Joop is a very interesting one because I participate myself with it. It's Join the Initiative, and it's about female activists in the Arab region. And it's a very unique study because it's the first time I see someone who is focusing on the activists while the other people, media, organization focusing on women as other category, as a refugee, as women under siege, women politician, but not the female activists themselves. And it was very interesting. I have read it, and thank you for a great job. I will not be long. It's not about to spend the night introducing you. I can do actually, but we will start with Ara, and she is well talking about the Syrian women movement. She's giving us the background, the challenges, the achievemental moment, some criticism probably. So Ara, please, floor is yours.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Yesterday I told on my Facebook about our event today. I will be clear. There is a previously detained woman from Syria. She asked me to talk about her friends of Syria, Syrian women who still in the Assad prison. While I stay here, sorry for that, but I must do what she told me. She told me I must to talk about how many women in Syria there are now in the prison. 6,580 women detained in Assad prisons, and 225 of them is underage. Women movement in Syria. When did it start? In fact, the present is not separate from history, and it is one form of it, as well as an inevitable result, which may reach inevitability. So I will make a summary of the Syrian women movement during the history of Syria, but I will focus on a comparison between two Ba'athist periods, before al-Ba'ath control and after its control. In principle, Syria is a sequence of multi-civilization. So, but woman is a basic factor in all these civilizations. I will try to summarize the overview of her presence in Syria's history. I will begin from year 1776 BC, when the goddess of the vase was the most important woman for the civilians in that time. The goddess vase represented their love, life, wisdom, and helping the mother during the birth giving. In 230 BC, 40 BC, Zenobia was the queen of the Palmyran Empire in Syria, who led a famous revolt against the Roman Empire. She built a strong economy and strengthened the military structure in the Empire of Palmyra. Aletta Jacobs, the first woman in the Netherlands who visited a higher Berger school, studied and established herself as a physician on 1878. These three women were students at the Women's Medical College of Pennsylvania in 1885. One of these three women in the picture is a Syrian doctor, this one. And her name is Tabat Istanbuli. Before the end of Ottoman occupation of Syria and during War I, women were suffering the circumstance of the war, while their men were forced to participate in the War I. At that time, women had new responsibilities and occupied position of the breadwinner in the family. In that period, feminism appeared in Syria. It came at the same time of feminism in Europe. So we can see some feminist achievements under Ottoman rule, such as the first women's journal, The Bride. The Bride in Damascus in 1910, Mary Ajami, this woman, who was born in 1888, was the founder of the Bride Journal. She was one of the leading women figures. Western powers entered lands ruled by the Ottomans for 400 years, and in which existed patriarchal establishments. So there was the influence of the first feminism Gulf, which was between 1880-1925. Back then, Syrian women's press flourished with the new journals and writing from Beirut and Damascus. Women during World War I entered the new spaces that were traditionally dominated by men. The French mandate created divide in the Syrian society and in the perception of equality among women leaders. Women were ready to take their position in leading their lives in and out Syria. So we had at that time 30 women's NGOs. They organized the movement of the Syrian women and took care of their rights in education and politics. In 1921, Syrian women shared the Lebanese community in Argentina to establish San Paulo's Hospital. In 1930, the first women conference was held in Damascus. Women who participated were belonged the elite and the intellectual. Yes. This photo for Syrian singers in 1931. In 1948 was the first graduated Syrian woman from medicine college in Damascus. Now, in the 60s, the second feminism movement came back mainly in Western countries, in the Netherlands, which was called Dolamina. What happened to the Syrian feminism in that period? Was it achieving progress parallel to that in Europe? Actually, when world became occupied with a new theories of liberalism and democracy, we had a new political challenge in our land, in our country. We had our black fate with dictatorship. Through a military coup, Hafiz Assad and his military group ruled Syria. Hafiz Assad and his party al-Ba'ath were controlling Syria by force, not by elections. So, Ba'ath Party used force as a way in the politics. And because he was aware that his way for ruling Syria is not successful, and because he was aware that his way of ruling Syria is not successful in achieving democracy, so he prevented all forms of civil movement, NGOs, political parties, or civil cultural movement. He prevented also women movement. His ideological discourse was concentrated on having international enemies, namely Israel, America, and Europa. They will occupy our land, and we must be ready. We must avoid all forms of civil groups or organizations or political parties. All women who had an organizations or were participating in political parties, all of them was arrested by Assad's intelligent services. And Ba'ath Party found the General Federation of Syria, of Syrian women. Ba'ath Party found General Federation of Syrian women. He made this federation as the only platform to represent the Syrian woman. from that moment, we hadn't in Syria any NGOs or foundations or political or social parties which could represent Syrian women and speak about their usurped rights. Assad's regime knows that women make up half of the society. If women are disabled and marginalized, half of the society will be in favor of the dictatorial regimes, where half of the society will not be demanding their rights, no elections, no equal opportunities at work. This dictatorial system has set off unjust laws imposed on Syrian women, including the family law, which states, our family law, yes, contain these things. Women are not allowed by law to choose their partner. Men can do it. If a Syrian woman, if a Syrian woman married to a non-Syrian man is not allowed her children to be granted Syrian nationality, while for a man is allowed. If a man's wife or sister suspected that she had love affair, her husband or her brother has the right to kill her. However, her partner will not be called to responsibility. In the case of the raping woman by a man, the problem is solved legally by the raped woman to marry her rapist. If a divorced mother want to remarry with a man other than her former husband, she has no right in the law to keep her children. So she had to stay without marriage. All groups of women who asked to change these unjust laws were prosecuted and sent to jail. The other question that asked Rula was, what is the challenge facing Syrian women today? When women have a space of freedom, they will make a difference. The continuation of Assad's regime rule depends on three pillars of support: soldiers and his intelligence services, the patriarchal elites, and social bureaucracy. No one of these pillars wanted to empower women in the society, political life, or in getting care of their rights. When the Syrian revolution erupted, the Syrian government, regime, also the society and regime intelligence services discovered that Syrian woman is one of the citizens. She has dreams in freedom. She has sorrow on her country and motivations to build her country. The woman demonstrated in the street, worked as reporter, and filmed the regime violations, treated the wounded. This woman, Alma Shahoud, she was a nurse and she sold her gold to open medical point in the district of Damascus. As I mentioned previously, Assad regime didn't accept women to be a citizen. He treated them before the revolution as second-degree citizens, but during the revolution, he treated them as first-degree citizens. Who can that? So he arrested and killed them like men. Raping women was the extra thing that the regime did to their because of their gender. Despite all the injustice that Syrian women suffered as victims before and after the war. They are still the mothers, the sisters, the daughters, and the wives of the martyr. Also, women have been exposed to various types of oppression and torture by Assad regime. They still dreams of obtaining their rights, which guarantee her freedom in Syria. The value, as what you said, the value that she gets because of the revolution is her citizenship. During Syrian revolution, women opened their eyes on politics as main factor in the structure of Syrian life. Now women are discussing in all taboos. They explored their power and ability to change their lives and how to be in charge of the life of the others. They think in the options and aims they want. Now Syrian women have magazines for women, are speaking about their obstacles, desires, pains, dreams. Now Syrian women write some articles that were forbidden, such as speaking about the headscarf, civil marriage. They are establishing organizations for women asking for new legal rights. Women just want freedom. Now in the Netherlands, we try to explore our abilities and capabilities. We have freedom, just we need to organize our abilities, to know more about ourselves, about the process of the Netherlands life in society, politics, economy, history. Just we need more openness in our vision to the world. Also in openness in the world to view us. And that's what we are working on in our organization here in the Netherlands, in SVNL. What do women ask for during the time of change? Women like men. By the start of the Syrian revolution, they stood up side and looked around, and then they looked to themselves. During revolution, Syrian women discovered themselves. Every problem has been flexible to be under discussion. Maybe she is aware of the present and this special moment, maybe not, but they realize and define what they want. They want freedom. Freedom is relative, it varies according to women's cultural background. Now, let us therefore face ourselves logically and see if Assad stay in power. Then IS and all fighters, they will also stay. Let us be aware to the fact that Assad entered Russia, Iran, Iraq, Hezbollah, America, inside Syria, and forced the Syrian revolution to be armed. If Syrian women need breathe, freedom, they have to think of how they dispose of Assad. That's my opinion. Then they can do their revolution or revolutions against the patriarchal system in our religions and societies. Thank you for your listen.
Thank you, Arya, very much, because you're giving us the background before Al-Assad regime, because now the propaganda is to showing Al-Assad in Europe as a secular regime, and it's in favor of women's rights, because they want to show only the educational right for girls and women, but they don't show how discriminated family law against women, for example. Thanks very much.
Let's see what we have. This is a photograph of the first feminist meeting of women. You can see how they are dressed. That is fantastic. That has been in the 19th century. There is a new book in the Netherlands, a biography. It's called Selina and Elsa, about two sisters who were educated in an aristocratic way. And at a certain moment, their personal development, they started to become feminists. And Celine started to organize an exposition hall about women labor. She wanted to show that women are everywhere producing things that we use, and also being medical doctors and lawyers and all kinds of things done by women. But when you read the book, it's very interesting because they have to do a lot of compromises, because society didn't want very much to acknowledge that women were underpaid and that they were in difficult circumstances, and that they were held back in their development many times. So they had to put all these things a bit under the carpet and make a very nice exposition. So you see, those kind of things that we experience today, they were already there 100 years ago. And it's very nice to read about it and have some recognition that, you know, there will always be resistance against people who ask for their rights. And okay, let's see what I wanted to say to the question. I think the conversation between the women changes the world. Now, it will not change in one go, but we have to endure, because everything that we do for the rights of women, we do for the rights of people. We do for human dignity. So that's a message that's very difficult to kill. They can try to kill it, but it comes back again. So with time, everything that we do to increase human dignity and to treat each other in a way of freedom, it will contribute to change. And together we have difficult times, I think. I think it's intolerable that we still have wars, killing many civilians, and the military know how to protect themselves, but they don't know how to protect civilians. We have even a nuclear war threat that will destroy life in portions that you cannot imagine. And we are also busy now with the issue of mass rape of women in war. It still happens, not less than before, even more than before. And also in Syria, there are cities that are under siege, like in the Middle Ages, and they are having hunger, and they have no way to feed themselves. And the government just closes the cities. No one is allowed to bring them food. So this is a madness of our century, which you cannot understand, because we are capable of sending rockets to the moon, of making airplanes, and we are not capable to holding back this kind of behavior that is totally out of order. But as women movements, we did reach some things. For example, now we have an international court of arbitration that helps countries to solve their conflicts between each other. And the initiative person of that was a woman, a Baroness von Suttner, who lost her brothers and husband in the war, and who was very, very upset about that. And she did a good fight, and so there's some result there. And then we have, for example, on the Moluccans, you have an organization called Women for Peace, and each time that there is a riot or something between the Hindus, the Muslims, and the Christians, they pull them together, the women come together with some other leaders, and they discuss the issue and try to find a solution. So they really don't want to have a war coming out of a conflict, because conflict is normal. You cannot always be at peace with each other. But to go to war is very extreme. So I myself, I was raised in Brazil by Dutch parents, and we had a very strict, religious, very strict family, while outside, on school, in Brazilian society, the world was more, let's say, chaotic and fuzzy, but full of life. So there came a moment that I decided that I would not accept any hypocrisy anymore in my life. And so it started. At the age of 17, I told my father that I didn't accept the strictness of his religion. Although I believe in God, but you know, God's a bit larger than all our restrictions, I think. And so my belief is that it's very important that people with pure hearts who long for peace and freedom, that they always have the possibility to do things, and they will meet each other and they will enforce each other. And then it's very nice, this invitation, to compare the situation in Syria with the situation in the Netherlands, like equals. So the beginning of the movement in Netherlands was an elite movement. Now you see that at that time there was a lot of criticism against the movement from the Socialist Party and also from the women in the Socialist Party. So from the beginning we were not agreeing with each other, because they said that all that elitist attention for women's rights, for example, the right to go out working, is not the right thing to ask, because there are working women from the workers who are exploited in the work. So they didn't want to support the elitist women's rights movement. Okay, that was the beginning of the problems, but anyway. Later on we got the Dolominas, baas in eigen buik. That was kind of a new approach of the women, because they were a bit sick of reading things in books and changing laws and having discussions at parliament. They got on the streets. And it had a lot of impact. Actually, the lady that we saw before, she did also a thing. She wrote a book, a romance, like a bit of a soap. She wrote about the life of a woman and everything that she endured during her life, and also the things that she saw about exploitation, etc. And through the book you see all the points that we can enumerate that are disadvantage for women. And the book was written in a very light tone, and it had a happy ending. And it was so popular that everyone wanted to read it. So you see that sometimes actions, you can do various kind of actions. And so the Dolominas also they choose a way of getting attention. And they also got some success in their plea, because they got the right of deciding on pregnancies, and we got in the Netherlands, we got shared custody over children, and well, those things that are, when you think about it, they are normal, but that had to be conquered with a lot of passion and a lot of organizing and a lot of work. Let me see. Rula asks about the added value of women in the public sphere. So I think the Netherlands women's movement, they have brought some changes. And at the same time, we see that feminism, it comes with waves. You say the first feminist wave, the second feminist wave. Every time that women achieve something, then the attention drops, and then you have to fight again. I don't know why this is so. My work is actually change, on social change, on knowing how social change goes and how it works. But in the course of my life, I got more questions than answers about it. And I still puzzle a lot about what do you have to do to cause social change. It's complicated. And sometimes it comes unexpected. In the case of Syria, I greatly admire what women are doing to keep society going. They have a kind of calling to keep human dignity in a situation that is very, very difficult and very, very hard. So when you read about women in Syria, you have to dig a bit because it's not on the headlines, but you see women everywhere helping refugees, defending to have food for the children, caring for education. And that has been so in the Netherlands as well, in all the periods, that women kind of choose for feminism, but they also choose for human dignity. So sometimes they are multitasking. Sometimes they do this for themselves, and sometimes they do it for others, because I think the whole feminist message is actually about human dignity. I think we need the Syrian women desperately at the negotiation table, because the negotiations are between factions that want the power. So they lost their way, because the divide is not between power from one side or power from other side. The divide is between those who want to dominate and those who need to have a social life which is secure and in which livelihood is basically organized. And none of the factions that want power are reasoning from the viewpoint of the needy. They are reasoning from the viewpoint of power. So I think this is very complicated. And women, talking about what they can add, they can add because they have another way of looking at things, and they have kind of other priorities. I'm talking about generally. Now there's another point, and that's the question what women's organizations have achieved. And I think, this is an hypothesis, that there are 4 major things that we can learn from each other. One is that the well-educated, well-informed, and well-connected women, say the elites, that they did organize themselves around their rights as women, and they demanded changes in law. And that is useful, it's important. So you should never say that elite women are useless, because they do their job. A second point is that it is important that elite women acquire practical experience in dialoguing with non-elite women who suffer directly from violence and injustice, and that they support them to organize themselves. Because it's different if you have an organization that wants theoretical things, or you have an organization of people who are important for the production. And we got, in the Netherlands, we got shared custody over children, and well, those things that are, when you think about it, they are normal, but that had to be conquered with a lot of passion and a lot of organizing and a lot of work. Let me see. Rula asks about the added value of women in the public sphere. So I think the Netherlands women's movement, they have brought some changes. And at the same time, we see that feminism, it comes with waves. You say the first feminist wave, the second feminist wave. Every time that women achieve something, then the attention drops, and then you have to fight again. I don't know why this is so. My work is actually change on social change, on knowing how social change goes and how it works. But in the course of my life, I got more questions than answers about it. And I still puzzle a lot about what to cause social change. It's complicated. And sometimes it comes unexpected. In the case of Syria, I greatly admire what women are doing to keep society going. They have a kind of calling to keep human dignity in a situation that is very, very difficult and very, very hard. So when you read about women in Syria, you have to dig a bit because it's not on the headlines, but you see women everywhere helping refugees, defending to have food for the children, caring for education, and that has been so in the Netherlands as well, in all the periods, that women kind of choose for feminism, but they also choose for human dignity. So sometimes they are multitasking. Sometimes they do this for themselves, and sometimes they do it for others, because I think the whole feminist message is actually about human dignity. I think we need the Syrian women desperately at the negotiation table, because the negotiations are between factions that want the power. So they lost their way, because the divide is not between power from one side or power from other side. The divide is between those who want to dominate and those who need to have a social life which is secure and in which a livelihood is basically organized. And none of the factions that want power are reasoning from the viewpoint of the needy. They are reasoning from the viewpoint of power. So I think that this is very complicated. And women, talking about what they can add, they can add because they have another way of looking at things. And they have kind of other priorities. I'm talking about generally. Now there's another point, and that's the question what we have, what women's organizations have achieved. And I think, this is an hypothesis, that there are 4 major things that we can learn from each other. One is that the well-educated, well-informed, and well-connected women, say the elites, that they did organize themselves around their rights as women, and they demanded changes in law. And that is useful, it's important. So you should never say that elite women are useless, because they do their job. Huh? A second point is that it is important that elite women acquire practical experience in dialoguing with non-elite women who suffer directly from violence and injustice, and that they support them to organize themselves. Because it's different if you have an organization that wants theoretical things, or you have an organization of people who are important for the production and for keeping things going, labor organizations. So it's very important that those things are connected. And you have seen that in the film Suffragette, where women in London, they ask for the right to vote. And you see very interesting that there's a role division between the women in the factories and the elite women and the in-between women. And all of them do their part. What we also have seen is that, you see it at Dolominas, but you see it also in other situations, is that the suffering and the injustice is documented and dramatized. The example of the book, you know, when there is a message to be, hello, welcome.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I took the wrong bus, so.
Okay, you're very welcome. So when you meet people in bad situations and you want to help them, you should also talk about justice, because otherwise you kind of humiliate them, you know. And so the case of justice is difficult to digest, so you have to dramatize it, and you have to use the media and do something in that direction. That's the third point. And the fourth, well, the fourth is going to the streets for some fundamental things. There are moments in which the women's movements, because there are various organizations and they have all kinds of differences, but there are moments in which they should unite to throw one fundamental issue on the street and make fuss about it. So these are the things that happen, and I think these are the things that bring about change. So my question in the beginning is, why should we have a war to fight out our differences? And I think that all of us, we need a new kind of leadership. Because the leadership that we have today is a bunch of advertisements on how you can be beautiful and have a good life and what you can buy and how important it is to have money. This is a kind of message from society, but it doesn't help us to avoid war. I myself don't believe that if we are rich in Europe and we have a lot of technology, that the rest of the world will follow eventually. I think that is not the kind of message that will help us to understand what's happening in the world.